Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Private Property Farming Podcast. My name is Mbali Nwoko, as always, your host on the Farming Podcast. Thank you so much for choosing the Private Property channel. If you're regular onto the show, remember that we still do have other podcasts that we air during the week as well as the weekend. And if you missed any of these episodes, you could catch them on our Private Property YouTube channel under the 4 playlists that we have. And pick what's your flavor. Pick your podcast that you love based on the content that we're delivering to you every single week. But if you're a favorite for the Farming Podcast, thank you so much for supporting the show because it's all about you, really. We're trying to bring agriculture to your home, and hopefully I hope that you've been able to start some vegetable gardens throughout the lockdown period, start some farms, grow some farms, and also have an idea of which commodity you want to venture into, because we've had poultry farmers, livestock farmers, grain farmers, vegetable farmers onto the show. The list is quite endless. And today I'm pretty much excited because we have another fantastic agripreneur on the show. In poultry, or focused in poultry farming, and his business is quite different as opposed to the other farmers that we've had onto the show. And he's pretty much diversified his offering, and hence the title of the show today is The Economics of Poultry Farming. If you have any questions for our guest this evening, please drop a comment, and we'll be sure to answer the question throughout the live show. Well, let's get into it. Today, our guest is Edzisani Mulaudzi, the founder of Gizmmo Poultry. Edzisani, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing?
Good on you, buddy. Thank you for having me on your show today. Thank you so much. It's a privilege, eh?
Yeah, it's exciting to have another.
It's a privilege to be.
Sure, you could carry on.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Yeah, it's one of those things where when you're doing work, you see, I always say the work that you do, someone else behind you is watching you behind closed doors, you see. So I never knew that you guys were watching me. Hence you guys approached me. So but I'm very grateful. I'm grateful for the opportunity.
Absolutely. It's our job to bring on
I'm grateful for the opportunity for having tonight.
Yeah, thank you for coming and making the time. Because
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you now.
Awesome. Well, I know. I was just saying thank you for making the time, because I know farmers are very busy, and as business people, we're always trying to make ends meet. So thank you for coming onto the show.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
Awesome. So Edzisani, for those of our guests and anybody that will be watching tonight that doesn't know you, please can you firstly maybe introduce yourself and tell us about what Gizmmo Poultry does?
Okay, my name is Edzisani Mulaudzi. I was born and raised in the East Rand in Benoni. So I'm the founder of Gizmmo Poultry, which Gizmmo Poultry has been founded by me, and I'm running it with my business partner, which is Tatu Tibela. So it's the two of us who are running the company. Basically, Gizmmo Poultry, it's a poultry farm, but not only just a poultry farm. We're not only focused only on growing chickens. So we diversify our business, where we venture into growing poultry, and we do off selling of your day-old chicks, and we sell your animal feeds as well. So it's a process. It's a 3-in-1. So it's a 3-in-1 process. So, for example, if a client buys chicks from us, they can also buy feed from us, and they can also buy medication. So that's why it's called Gizmmo Poultry Farm, because we're not only focusing on chicken only, but it's a whole value chain. So we offer you a package. So it's all in one package. So that's why it's called Gizmmo Poultry. So that's why the topic of today, it's economics of farming, because remember, when you're talking about farming, it's an economic chain, which it's a distribution chain where one renders your goods and services. So that's why in most of our workshops we always say economics of farming. So that's basically a nutshell of Gizmmo Poultry.
Yeah. Mulaudzi, you're selling chickens, day-olds, feeds, vaccination. And you obviously alluded into why, you are offering this value chain, a service offering to farmers. But basically, just in how you started, which which area within the value chain did you start with? Did you start with day-old chickens or just growing chickens? And what brought on the idea to add other value-added services to make it a complete bouquet of services called Gizmmo Poultry?
So basically, when we started the business, we started by growing chickens. So as the business grew, we found a gap because sometimes between, because remember, when you're growing chickens, there's a peak season and then there's an off-peak season. Like for example, now we're on an off-peak where so many people are not growing chickens. So when we started growing chickens, but as time went by, we started seeing that when you wanted to order chicks from our suppliers on a peak season, on a peak season, which is a high season, we couldn't get your day old chicks. So then we sat down and we said, you know what, if these things we can do them ourselves, like a value chain, if we can buy your fertile eggs and then we can incubate ourselves, basically we're cutting the middleman. We can hatch our own chicks. Then from hatching, we can grow it ourselves, which makes it much more easier, and it cuts so many operational costs. Because knowing that the old chicks are very expensive. But when we first started the business, we started from buying. But as we grew, over the years, we said, you know what? Why not? If one person can grow their old chicks, why not venture into that space as well? Because it's a very interesting space to venture in, but it needs knowledge, because you can't just sell their old chicks. It needs experience to hatch those chicks. So that's why today we ended up doing the whole value chain of supplying chicks, supplying feed, and doing all the value chain. So it becomes easier for us as an organization as well.
Yeah. So I just want to know, now that you've incorporated this value chain as a business, are you still growing day-old chicks? Or are you completely
just we still no, we do grow day-old chicks for ourselves, and then we do supply day-old chicks to the external farmers as well. So it's both for ourselves, and we supply day-old chick to other farmers as well.
Okay, so Edzisani, I just want to find out, so we're talking the economics of poultry farming, right? And we've actually never asked this for the other poultry farmers that have come onto the show, but it's great because you have the full knowledge of the value chain. So I just want to find out, how much does a full chicken retail, whether you're selling to markets, and it could be a variety of markets, all right, whether formal, informal, or whatever the case might be, versus what's the cost price? So to get a chicken to a specific kilogram or weight, how much does it cost, and how much could one look at selling it in the market, just so that we can understand the input costs and the calculations in terms of how can one make money in the poultry farming sector?
Remember, Mbali, when you're growing chickens, right? The market, it's very diverse, because in the poultry game, we work according to weights. Because there's certain people like your for example, your Nando's chicken. Those chickens are 1.2 weight when it's dressed. So on a live weight, when you take it to the abattoir, it needs to be about 1.5, 1.6. And I always tell people that in any organization, your operational costs are not the same. For example, looking at me, since I distribute your animal feed, it will work out much more cheaper for me than a person who's buying feed from me. So your final, for example, to grow a chicken as a farmer, to grow a chicken, for example, maybe your chicken wants to your chicken needs to be about 1.8. To grow that chicken, you need to spend at least 27 rand per bird to grow that chicken. So meaning you need to factor your water, you need to factor in your electricity, you need to factor in your wages, you need to factor in your labor to grow those chickens.
Yeah.
So you need to factor all those things in order for you to get your final product. Because I always tell people it's not the same, because remember, feed companies have their own prices, and your target market as well. Where I'm selling my chickens, my target market, it won't be the same as the next person. So it varies from your customers as well. Because it's when it comes to this business, it's very difficult to determine your operational cost. Because remember, when you're growing a chicken, right, there's certain factors like your mortality which need to take into consideration when you're growing your chickens. For example, I may be growing a chicken in my chicken farm. I might be renting my chicken farm, and the next person might be owning that chicken farm. So your costs are not the same. I'm not paying rent. I'm only paying electricity because I own the land. The other person has to pay rent. From that rent, that person needs to pay your wages, needs to pay electricity, and all the other costs, including your medication, your feed, your wood shaving. So the final product, it differs from farm to farm. That's why for me it's quite easy for me, because I'm already distributing feed, and I'm getting feed at a cheaper rate compared to a person who's buying feed. So for example, I might be getting feed for 20 rand, and then the next farmer is getting a bag of feed by 50 rand. So already there's a difference of 30 rand, which it plays a major role in your end product. So that's what people must always understand, and your area as well. Because for example, in Joburg, chickens are retailing for about 70 rand, but when you go into your Limpopo chicken is much more expensive. Because why? Feed is expensive that side, so the end product needs to be expensive as well. So it depends on the area which you are, and then it will determine your final product price. I always tell people that, because you never know. People will ask me, why are you selling a chicken at 42 rand while us are selling chickens at 50 rand? You don't know how my operational costs. So that's what, because in each and every organization there's a thing called operational costs, and operational costs, they from organizations. So I'm saying, if I'm selling a chicken at 50 rand, and then the next farmer is selling a chicken at 60 rand, you must ask yourself, what are your operational costs? So that's the important factor which you need to take into consideration, because farming is very expensive. People think farming is very expensive. Medication on its own, it's very expensive. Like to treat a chicken, medication, you can spend close to about 300-400 rand on a sachet of medication. So those are the factors which you need to build in when you're calculating operational costs. Don't just think, okay, if that farmer is selling a chicken at 60 rand, I must also sell that chicken at 60 rand. You must sit down and look at how much does it cost you to grow a chicken. To grow a chicken, it takes 42 days to grow a chicken. So from day 1 to day 42, I must know how much will it cost me to grow that chicken. Then I can do my pricing of selling the end. Because remember, there's a live market and there's a slaughtered market. So there's two different segments that you need to focus. So as a farmer, you need to establish your own market. Which market is suitable for you? Is it the live market or is it the slaughtered market? Because remember, if it's a live market, it's got its own pricing. If it's a slaughtered market, it's got its own pricing. When I'm talking about your slaughtered market, I'm talking about dressed when it's slaughtered, when it's already culled and everything. That's your dress. And when you're talking about your slaughter market, we're talking about weights, because a certain clients will tell you, I want my chickens to be 1.2 dressed, 1.5, like 1.6, 1.8. Then your live market, people will tell you, no, I want my chicken to be 2 kilograms at live weight. So it's two different segments which you need to focus on. But as a person, you need to find a gap. You need to find a pattern on how you're going to work on the two. Are you going to focus on the two, or are you going to focus on one? If you're focusing on the two, which one is much more profitable? So you see, you need to balance. If the left is not working, you must balance on the right hand side. So you see, you need to have an option. Because I always also tell people, when you're venturing into this business, you have a market. Because you can grow chickens, right? You can grow chickens up to 5 weeks. After 5 weeks, you don't have a market. You need to establish a market. So that's what most of emerging farmers are failing on that segment. They don't have the right market to sell. Even on your dressed chickens. When you're talking about dressed chickens, we're going into deeper, because remember, when you're working with chickens, there's rules, there's laws. Working with laws. To grow a chicken, you need to abide to the law. You need to be registered. First of all, you need to have a registered company. You need to have a tax clearance. You need to have a health and safety certificate. Because once you're working with food, you need to be regulated. So if you're gonna slaughter chickens, you need to have a health and safety certificate. So you see, so most of those things, the abattoir that you're using, that abattoir needs to be registered as well. It needs to be kosher approved or halal approved. So because nowadays we're working with halal approved and kosher approved products. So you need to establish that, because it's not easy to tap into those segments. Because again, for example, if you want to supply your shops like your Pick and Pay, like your big wholesalers, they'll ask you, is your company registered? They'll need tests. Your water needs to be tested. Like if you're using municipality water, your water needs to be tested. If you're using borehole, you need to test your borehole once a year. They need those certificates. So it's very complex. It's not easy. Even if when you're selling your vegetables as well, you need to be registered as well. Same applies to when you're doing poultry farming. You need to be registered in order for yourself to get yourself out there. You need to be registered. Because remember, when you're talking about poultry, people ask you, what is poultry? Poultry is it's diverse.
Yeah.
That's why when I say economics of farming, it's a value chain.
Yeah.
It's a value chain. We're focusing on everything. We're focusing from how you grow your chicken, how you process your chicken, and how you take it to the end user, because you're the end user. I'm the grower. You're the end user. The end user is someone which is buying the product. So you need to they need to know. They need to know how was the chicken processed. So you see, it's a value chain. Hence, I'm saying it's a big value chain.
Geez, you've said quite a lot in this past 5 minutes, and you've pretty much painted the picture quite clearly, and I guess for someone that just didn't know where to start, I think you've pretty much given us the tools. So there's so many things that just started popping up when you were speaking. So firstly, just to summarize a bit from a production level, when one is starting chickens, they obviously need to factor if they're renting or buying the land. They have to factor electricity, water,
Correct.
input costs, so buying the day olds, buying the feeds, buying the medication, and so forth,
Correct.
right? Now, I want to go into infrastructure, which I've seen on your social media profiles. You're building infrastructure for farmers. For example, an average size of an infrastructure, how much does that cost? And how many chickens would one need to start with to maybe see a good return on investment, just from a standard level? So let's say if everything was constant, how many chickens does one have to start with? Is it 50? Is it 100? And how many houses could that be so that they can continue the cycle and just to get a good return on investment?
I would say for a person who would like to start, excuse me, would like to start farming, I would advise a person to build a structure which can accommodate 500 chickens. The reason why I'm saying 500 chickens, because when you're starting, I always tell people, when you start, build a structure of 500 chickens, but when you start with 100 chickens first. Then when you start with 100 chickens, because when I say 100 chickens, on that 100, it will teach you the basics of the fundamentals of poultry farming. Hence, I'm saying 100 because you're decreasing the mortality rate. You see, because remember, when you're talking about chickens, there's a thing called mortality. Because people think when I'm growing 100 chickens, when I sell one chicken for 60 rand, when you times 60 by 100, you get 6,000, for example. And they don't take into consideration that there's a thing called mortality. You need to train yourself. You need to train yourself on how to grow chickens. Then when you have mastered on how to grow 100 chickens, then you can increase your capacity to 500 to 1,000, because it works much more easier than that, because you can't just start with 500 chickens when you don't know the basics. You don't know the diseases. You don't know how to grow chickens. You don't know how to control the temperature. You see, it's very intense. But for a person who would like to start small, then work your way up. Then you'll know your mistakes. Because working with chickens, it's very complicated, because there's over 1,000 diseases. Like even now, we've got avian flu now, which wipes out everything. And if your farm is affected with avian flu, they red flag your farm. You can't operate. So there's a lot of affecting. And when you're building a chicken structure as well, there's a certain direction you need to build a chicken structure. You can't just build a chicken structure. There's a certain direction. So if the sun is coming on the south or the west, or the rain is coming on your opposite direction, there's a certain direction you need to build your houses. There's a certain direction. So it's many factors involved in constructing a chicken house. So that's why there's people who design chicken houses for a reason, because they know how to build a chicken house. They'll build a chicken house so that the chickens can grow properly. Because remember, chickens also, they need ventilation to grow. That's an important part of growing chicken. Chickens need ventilation. How the air circulates in a chicken house, it's very important. So I would say, for a person who wants to start small, and then you work your way up.
Right. And what would that small equate to? So for example, you said build a chicken house that can accommodate 500 chickens. And so let's say I'm Bali, I want to come to Gizmmo Poultry, and I said, you know what, I've got a bit of capital. Gizmmo Poultry, can you build me 2 chicken houses that can accommodate 500 chickens, but I want to start with 100. How much would 1 chicken house cost me? And how much would 100 chickens day-olds cost me just to start? Or what would you say? Would you say start with 50,000, which could buy you a house and chickens and a bit of feed? So what would one be looking at as a startup capital cost?
Because remember, if you want to build a chicken structure that accommodates about 500 chickens, you need a 6x6, because
Okay.
Hence, I'm saying a 6x6. For every, in a chicken house, 50, we call it stock density. For every square meter, you need 15 chickens. So 6x6 times 15 will give you the number of chickens you need. Because remember, when you're building a chicken house, know that per square meter, you can house 15 chickens. And chicken houses, they vary. Hence, I'm saying they vary. You can build a chicken house whether using bricks, or you can use a chicken house whether using corrugated zinc, or you can use wood. So there's different types of ways of building chicken structures. So they vary. Because and each and every one of those, like if you're building with bricks, it's got its own disadvantage and advantages. If you're building with, it's got its own advantages and disadvantages. So depending on the client, because now they're all chicks. Now they're retailing for about 850, 900 rand a box of 100. So if you're looking at 500 chickens, you're looking about probably about 900 times by 5 is about 5 point something for about 500 chicks.
Yeah.
And then you need to take into consideration your feed as well.
Yeah.
Your feed as well. You need to take that into consideration as well. Because for 100 chickens, you need about 10 bags. For 100 chickens, you need about 10 bags. So if you're gonna take about, because for every 100 chickens, you need 10 bags. You need 2 bags of starter, 3 bags of grower. No, 2 bags of starter, 4 bags of grower, 4 bags of finisher. So it's 244. 244. So remember, so if your capacity is growing, so if you're gonna put 200 chickens, you'll need 4 bags of starter. Whether using, because remember there's 40 kgs and there's 50 kgs bags of feed as well. So it depends. Depending on again as well, hence I'm saying, depending on your area, to build a structure of about to house about 500 chickens, you need about, let me say, about 70,000 rand, including your equipment. When I'm talking about equipment, I'm talking about your drinkers, your feeders, your curtains as well. Roughly about 70,000 rand, but depending on what material you use, depending.
So
it's
is
one
it
of
safe
those.
to say, yeah. So is it safe to say, because like you said, start small, is it safe to say one could look at 100,000 rand that could build you one house and get you plus minus 100 chickens and a bit of feed, etc.?
No, for 100 chickens, if you want a good ventilated house, budget around 70,000 rand for a good ventilated chicken house. Around 70,000 rand.
And this excludes the actual chickens.
Yeah, that excludes. That excludes.
Yeah.
I'm talking about just building. I'm talking about just building your structure, putting in your JoJo tank, putting in your concrete floor, putting in your side curtains, putting in your infrared lights, putting in your drinkers, your feeders, and all the lighting, the tubing, the wiring of electricity. Budget around 70,000 for a proper, because that's where people are getting it wrong. When they want to start chickens, right? They want to do it in the garage. Remember, when you're doing chickens in the garage, there's not enough ventilation, and your chickens might die. Because remember, when you're doing chickens, it's like you sleeping in a queen bed. If you can sleep in a queen bed, what about your chickens? So you need to think about your chickens as well, because chickens, they need a proper house to grow.
Absolutely.
To grow into the correct weight and size. Yeah, they need a proper structure.
Right. Edzisani, we've got 2 comments here from one of our viewers. One is from Zama from Cape Town, and he or she says, this is the best show on YouTube. Thank you, Private Property. And Sibenzile is saying that they're interested and they want to start this business. So I think you're giving us some very, very interesting gems on how to start a poultry farming. And the reason why I'm asking the numbers is because people also always want to know, how much should I budget? Should I have 100,000 to start off with one house and get, like you said, If it's 100,000, 70,000 goes to a proper infrastructure, and then maybe plus minus the 30,000 can go into buying the feeds and the chickens, etc. And obviously, also broken it down in terms of, one chicken standard. Obviously, given the other factors that there are many other variables, but from a standard perspective, a chicken can cost you, what you said, 27 Rand to grow, and it could retail anything from like 60 Rand, depending on your clients. But I want to talk about market, Edzisani. What opportunities are out there for a poultry farmer, especially if they want to explore different markets? So let's leave the formalized retail space, because we all know that retail, like we've mentioned, a restaurant, a retailer will charge you per kilograms. So how does the market look like in terms of the abattoirs, the butcheries? Like, what different markets can a poultry farmer explore?
There's many markets. The market is so it's so broad. For example, there's people who hence it's a very good question that you ask, because they always tell me market. Like, people consume chicken on a daily basis. They consume chicken on a daily basis. Market, you find it in when you're talking about when you're talking about market, right? There's your informal market and there's your formal market. The informal market, it is so big, you can't even finish it.
Break it down.
It is so big, in such a space where chickens. Have you ever went to a mall, like in your locations? Have you ever went to a mall?
Yes, in the townships. Yes,
the townships. And you would find there are 10 ladies who are selling chickens.
Yeah.
10 ladies who are selling chickens, and all of them are selling at the same price.
Yep.
All of them. Go there in month end. It is so busy where chickens, you swear that no one. What's happening?
Yeah.
What's happening in this? And I always tell people that when you group yourselves as farmers, right?
Yeah.
You can actually feed the nation. If there's I'm gonna make an example now. If there's 5 farmers and every one of us are doing 100 chickens, that's already 500 chickens, right?
Yeah.
And we take all those chickens, we take it to the abattoir. When you take it to the abattoir, we find a reputable abattoir, or we find an informal market. Then we go to that formal market, and then all of us we sell to that informal market. Then there's business there. Because I find it very, very weird when people say that no, there's no business, in the chicken industry, wara. But there's so many ways where we can explore. Hence, I'm saying I've got my own target market. And the way I established my own target market is because I've seen how they react, and I've seen how they want things. And I always tell people, because I always there's one of my close friends who always tells me this: if you can master on your marketing in your business, you will go far. The way you present your end product to the end user will determine, like for example, if I post something on Instagram, the way I post it and the way I market my end product, you as the end user will be intrigued. You know what? I've seen 5 pages of chicken farming, but that one is appealing. That one is appealing. I always tell, because you'll see on Facebook, people are selling chickens, but now when they sell chickens now, like the image, it's not appealing to the end user.
Yeah.
It's not appealing. So I always tell people, the way you advertise your business, it will determine how your end product goes.
Yeah.
Hence, I'm saying it's a rotation. It's a rotation. That's why if you understand the word economics, it's it's a term it's a term used in every business, because economics it refers to social things, it refers to so many things.
Yeah.
But it's economics, it's a term used in it's a term used for distribution. You see,
Right.
it's a term used for. So to answer your question again on, if one wants to go into this, if one wants to go into this business, you must tell yourself, if you're gonna sell, there's so many ways of selling chicken, but you as an individual, you need to find that one thing which will be appealing to the end user.
Yeah.
That one thing. I'm not gonna mention it. You as a farmer, I can sell veggies. I can sell veggies as well. But there's that one thing which is appealing about my vegetables, which that end user will buy. Same applies to your chickens as well. To sell chicken to the end user, there's something you need to do as a farmer, because many people are saying, no, I'm growing chickens, but I don't have a market. Chicken is being consumed every day. Chicken, 80% of people consume chicken every single day. For example, if I'm gonna sell a chicken, right? In a chicken, what do you get? You get your gizzards, right? You get your intestines, you get your feet. There's people who stand in the corner who distribute what? Chicken feet. There's people who sell what? Your gizzards. There's people who sell your intestines. You see, so it's hence I'm saying it's a value chain.
Yeah.
So when a chicken is being processed, there's so many ways you can sell your chicken. There's so many ways. Not only as a full chicken. I know a friend who's got a restaurant, or who sells who at the corner, who sells chicken dust. I can sell him a chicken open. Like, there's a person who sells drumsticks. I can portion those. I can portion. There's a person in any business. There's a person who wants something.
From a chicken.
Same applies. Yeah. Same applies. The problem is, as people, we are focused on one concept.
Yeah.
You're focused on one concept. If I'm gonna say I'm selling my chicken at 60 rand per kilo, there's a reason why. I've got my own target market. There's a thing called target market in a business. So if I'm gonna say I'm charging 60 rand, I'm charging 60 rand because my chicken, it's got value, and you as an end user are buying it because it benefits you.
Yeah.
So because now, to answer the question again, sorry, I'm saying is, when a person wants to venture into this business, they must establish what market they wanna fall under. Do they wanna go into the live market, or do they wanna go into a slaughtered market? When you go into the slaughtered market, it's so many. There's chicken wings, there's fillets, there's so many things you can explore. There's so many ways you can explore with dressed chicken compared to your live chicken. Because live chicken, it's when you're taking it to the corner to sell it to the hawkers. But when you're selling it dressed, you can do it in informal or formal market. You can sell it to the household, you can sell it to your retailer. So it's two different things. So you see that
the market is there. And what I've seen with Gizmmo Poultry, yeah, thank you for breaking it down as a whole chicken and selling the chicken feet, the drumsticks, the intestines. That is something I typically just don't think of, and you're absolutely right. And seeing Gizmmo Poultry as well, I see that you sell obviously the live whole chickens. You have also processed chickens. You're also selling not only chicken feed, but also the eggs. And I suppose that's like a whole bouquet within the poultry space, right? And just based on the eggs, the processed chicken and the live chicken, I suppose based on what you just said, is that each of them, just in the poultry sector, there's so many different markets. Whether you're selling the eggs, whether you're selling the chicken that laid that egg, chicken that is processed, chicken that is live. There's various avenues that one could target.
That's correct. Very. Because as I'm saying, us growing eggs, it's another division as well. Because we've got our own layers as well, and we also buy fertile eggs. And then you incubate them, then you grow. We also sell their own chicks for layers as well.
Yes.
So another thing which have you seen on our post, like when you're selling our products, we'll have maybe a special, maybe we're selling a whole chicken and eggs. So it's a combo. It's a combo on its own. So instead of a person going to the next shop to buy something, why not offer the person the whole package?
Yeah.
So if the person wants to buy chicken, give him eggs as well. It's a whole package. It's a whole package. So it's very sometimes you need to bring your customers closer. You need to bring your customers closer. It's not easy because everyone is selling eggs. But what's different about me is my eggs are always fresh.
Yeah.
You see, my eggs are always. It's not the eggs that you get at Pick and Pay. They've got a shelf life where they've been standing on the shelves for about a week. When I give you eggs, I give you eggs from which they hatched today or yesterday, which is fresh eggs. So when you're talking about economics of farming, you're giving someone fresh chicken, you're giving someone fresh egg, which makes it more easier for the next person. You see, because it's processed. Remember, when you're talking about processed food, it's very complex because I've got certain people who would buy, for example, when they're buying our slaughtered chicken, they'll ask you so many things. Are you halal approved? Do you have a health certificate? They'll ask you those questions because they're concerned about their health. Because remember, when you're talking about processed food, it raises so much concerns. It raises so much concerns because you need to know where was that food processed. So I get it on a daily basis. People will ask you these questions. Are you halal approved? Do you have a health and safety certificate? Is your farm registered? Is your farm what? Is your farm? So it raises so much questions. You see, so that's why when you're running a business, like this, you need to do your research first. You need to do proper research because you can't just open. Because when for example, the Department of Agriculture can come here and they'll ask you for documents. If you don't have documents, it's a problem. It's a problem because, hence I'm saying, when you're talking about processed things in farming, when you're growing farming, it's a term which many farmers are not getting it right. Record keeping is very important because when you're growing chickens, you vaccinate your chickens, right? You give your chickens medication. You need to record those things because when you take your chickens to the abattoir, they'll ask you what medication was given prior you delivering your chickens to us. What? Because they ask you at the abattoir. They ask you because remember when you're taking chickens to the abattoir, they also need to have records. You need to have records because if I'm going to process that meat and then I take it, for example, you buying my meat, and then after 2 days you're telling me that you're sick. You see, I need to have records. I need to have a trace. Okay, I've got a customer who bought chicken. I checked that the customer is sick. I need to go back to my books. I need to check. Okay, what medication was given to this? My chicken was sick. A, B, C, D. So it's all of those things where you need to have it's where farmers are not doing that. They're just thinking growing chicken is just growing chicken for the fun of it. It's very it's very complex actually. It's very complex.
Yeah. Edzisani, thank you so much for this poultry masterclass, the economics of poultry farming. I wish we could have had 2 hours for you to break it down, but I know that you do a lot of workshops, which I think people can find you on Instagram, just to have understanding of what the workshop entails. I'm not sure if you're doing any workshops right now because it's COVID, but I'm sure people will follow you, and I know that whoever needs some information will contact you. So we'll put your details on the YouTube channel once it posts live on our page. But thank you so much for sharing valuable information about record keeping, vaccination, the input costs, how much it costs to build a structure, how the structure needs to be faced, etc., how you need to look for markets, and also breaking down the many ways in which one can make money from just selling one whole live chicken, drumsticks, legs, thighs, intestines, etc., etc. The list goes on, and it shows that you've really walked the path and the journey into your business and quite knowledgeable. But thank you so much for dropping all these interesting gems, valuable knowledge that we could all take home and just start scribbling and planning for our poultry farm. But thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you so much. Hey, it's an honor.
Great. If you're just catching us, sorry, you've just missed the show, but you could catch it on our YouTube channel under the Farming Podcast playlist. And we're speaking to Edzisani Mulaudzi, founder of Gizmmo Poultry. He has literally broken down the poultry industry, and I'm quite excited about his business, particularly because he provides a whole bouquet of service offering. You can buy day-old chicks from him, get some information on how to raise those chickens, get vaccination, get the feed, So he's a go-to guy just to help you in costing your poultry farm, whether you're a startup farmer. And also you can engage with him if you just want to grow your enterprise. But I hope that tonight's show was very valuable and you found a lot of information and insights. And thank you so much for supporting the Farming Podcast. And be sure to catch us next week, Tuesday, at 8 o'clock, but I'm forgetting. It's actually Tuesday today. But yes, the show will return again on Thursday. Clearly, I'm just rushing for the weekend, aren't I? But yes, thank you so much for supporting the podcast. And we highly appreciate your comments this evening. And so catch me on Thursday with another exciting agripreneur. Take care.
Thank you so much.